From commanding fighter jets in the Israeli Air Force to scaling and exiting companies, our guest today has done it all. Now he's helping CEOs and leadership teams navigate one of the most complex transformative technologies of our time, which is AI. Izar, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I'm more excited because I know that I'm going to learn from you and then I'm going to apply this in my business today. So that's the point of doing a podcast.
That's the spirit. I appreciate that.
Before we dive into the AI strategy, let's rewind to what first led you to leadership. And I'm very curious about the angle of how did your time at the Air Force shape your approach in building and running businesses?
Oh, interesting. Great questions. The first company I joined was a bunch of guys out of the Air Force. So it was a very easy transition from the perspective of communication and understanding everybody and getting immediately into a leadership position without any entry position just because I knew the founders of the company and they wanted me to be a part of it. So from that perspective, I was parachuted into a into a leadership position without having a clue of what I'm supposed to do because the military universe and the civilian universe are very, very different. But there are a lot of things that actually transition very, very well, like great preparation before you do anything, like diving into details and understanding every single aspect of it, like teamwork, working with other people in order to execute it and being able to blindly know that they're going to do what they're supposed to do. And if not, they will communicate it to you in time, like sticking to the goal, right? It's not necessarily sticking to the plan because just like in the Air Force in business, it probably will change, but sticking to the goal, like if we've set to do whatever it is that we need to do in a mission, completing the mission is the main thing you're going to do everything in order to achieve, and that's true in the Air Force and in business life. And then maybe the last thing I'll add is the debriefing everything. So the Air Force kind of forces you to debrief literally everything you do, and it becomes a part of your nature. And I now debrief anything. Like when I park and it's not parallel perfectly, I'm like, oh, what did I do? Okay, I did this. Next time, pay attention to that. And when you do that in business, whether it's for yourself, for other people in leadership, for different teams, for individuals in the company, you continuously get better. And so the mix of all these things just make you a better business person, not just a better pilot.
What a refreshing, I don't want to use the word crash course, but it was like a course in itself, super succinct and very valuable that how we kind of forget sometimes that we're planning a goal, but some people plan the plan
Yeah.
and the execution, and we're going to do this first, and then we got to go do this first, but it's not as in real life, as I imagine in the Air Force, you nothing comes out of plan, but the goal has to be met.
Yes. Yes.
And I like the debrief. How do you work it in your teams? At do you teach? How do you teach this in your team? I see that you do it on your daily life, and you are embody that. But when you're a leader and you try to create your organization, is this something that you explain? Do you have it written? Is it systematized? How do you implement this?
I think like many other things in business, you just have to do it. So you finish a project, you do a debrief of the project. You did the launch of a course or a book or a product or whatever. You go back and you debrief the launch. You run something, a campaign, and it wasn't successful. You go back and you debrief what didn't work. You document it. You put it somewhere that the next people that are going to run it will see it again. So whether it's a folder where you did the project, put a debrief as well in a standard structure. Or if you're using Notion or ClickUp or Confluence, if you're in the development world, wherever it is you have the documentation of the project, have a debrief. So the next time people are going to run it, they need to go check the debrief first. And as you do more and more of that, it just becomes second nature to people in any organization. One of the hardest things when you join the Air Force is debriefing because it's very unnatural to sit in front of a large group of people in a debriefing room and admit to every mistake you made that day. Like most people try to avoid, like fire, uh, stating that they did anything bad, right? As humans, from very early age, we try to look for excuses when we didn't do our homework, when we failed our test, when we didn't clean our room, when the whatever the case may be, we always try to find reasons slash excuses why the thing that happened. It's very unnatural to do exactly the opposite. Say, hey, I did this wrong, I did this wrong, I did this wrong. I think if I'll do this next time, it will be better. I'm not sure how to fix this, which makes you look even dumber. I'm like, okay, you not only you don't do it, you don't know how to do it better. No, I don't. Like I need help. And but if you do that, then you learn much faster. So it's very hard in the beginning in the Air Force, but when you do this day in, day out for 10 years, it becomes you. Like it just, you don't know how to do anything else differently. And so you do that in a company, it becomes part of the company.
I love it. And I'm actually thinking I run an investment management company, and 90% of our focus is the investment committee, the next investment, the next investment, the next investment. But really, we should be thinking of an accountability committee or an accountability circle or a debrief where you say, these are the decisions we made with this time. What went well, what went wrong, so that we can keep improving. Because I think that that is a key lesson that we're going to implement immediately. Like I said, I don't joke when I say I come here to learn, but then also to implement.
And I think what you said is perfect, right? Because it's in your scenario, yes, the investments are different every time. I'm a part of a VC as well, so I know what it takes to make investments. It's very important to actually go back and say, okay, what data did we have? What assumptions did we make? What decisions did we make based on the data and the assumptions? What were the projections we were expecting based on the data and the assumptions and everything? What actually happened? And why? Like, was it something that was within our control, something that wasn't within our control, something we could have known and we didn't know? Sometimes you just don't have the data, but sometimes not having the data is exactly the problem, right? We could have had more data. It would have taken us more time, would have cost us more money, would have required additional resources, would have been difficult with this one or two individuals. Sometimes you can get the extra data. You just decide, or not decide, but by not deciding, you're deciding not to have that extra data, and then you make the decision based on more assumptions versus more data, and that sometimes come to bite you afterwards. And so it's these kind of things that if you say, oh, remember whatchamacallit event that happened to us, it feels like the same thing. And the way to make it feel like the same thing is to, we used to call it in the Air Force, to burn a specific point in your head, like save them in a database, something. So if you run the debrief, you have conclusions in the end, somebody will remember that the next time you run into something similar. If you just move on, then that point was never made, and hence the improvement probably won't happen.
And it's very right. It's if you don't have, I think it's better explained in how to make better decisions, because like you mentioned, you will never have all the data. And if you want all the data, you will never make a decision. It's the fact of the business. You cannot, you have to know what are your odds, and do you do the deal? Do you roll the dice,
Yeah.
or do you not? And I think that having an accountability committee or some sort of accountability debrief, you can expand on your decision making process, and saying that, because if you use that again, I like how you said we're built to make excuses. We're built to say, I didn't do this because I didn't have data, but it's more like, how can we improve our decision making criteria or a decision making process so that, oh, did I make a decision based on emotion that day? Or was I influenced by politics? Or was I influenced by what everybody else was doing? Like all these things I think are part of going deeper. And this is a great segue to AI, because our brains can't remember all this, uh, even if they're written. Sometimes we're like, what project was that? I don't even remember. So let's start before we go into AI, and I want to fast forward to today because you are at the forefront of making AI practical for businesses, not just ChatGTP to ask any other question. What drew you to this mission, and what gap did you see that multiply AI or multiply? I know the word play on word. It's on your shirt. Is solving.
Great question. So there's a very serious transition that the world is going to go through, and it's going to be on literally every aspect of our lives, or almost every aspect of our lives. And part of that is business, right? And most people today, including business leaders of successful companies, smart people with capabilities and networks and experience, still do not grasp how dramatic the shift is going to be, how much it's going to impact their industry, their business, their supply chain, their distribution, their clients, their cash flow, everything that makes a business a business. And it's very hard to grasp that because it's nothing like anything we've seen before. Now, in addition, it is moving really, really fast. So a business, even a mid-sized business, so a small business, 3 people, yes, they can change what they do. But if you have 50 people, it's not that easy to change something in the company from one week to the other. And yet the AI world is changing so quickly that like, even if you wanted to, how do you do that? And the last thing is every business person I talk to, and I talk to a lot, I speak on a lot of stages, I have my podcast, I teach courses, I consult to companies. Everybody's too busy. Everybody tells me they don't have time to learn this because they have a day job. They have a business to run, they have a team to do, they have a product to develop, they have QA, like whatever it is that they're doing. They are busy with that and they don't have time to go and figure out how AI can help them do that better. And so what I found out, and it was organically, like I wasn't planning to do what I do. It kind of happened. It kind of happened because I sold my half of the business to my business partner at the end of 2022. And about a month later, ChatGPT came out, and I was bored, and I'm a geek, and I ran software companies most of my life. And this was very exciting to me. So I started playing, and I have other friends who are CEO, like just like I was, and I invest in companies and I sit on board. So I know a lot of people that are in decision-making positions. And organically, people started asking me about, hey, you posted about this, you do this, can you come help us? Very quickly, I started teaching courses. And it's very, very obvious to this day that the vast majority of people in the world don't have a clue what this can do right now. Forget about what it will probably do 2 years from now. And I'll give you a simple statistics. I teach courses that I teach at least once a month, usually twice. So right now, as an example, I'm teaching 2. Next month, there's another 2. And most of the people in these courses are in decision-making positions because they fill up a form when they sign up for the course. And one of the questions is, what's your level of seniority, C-suite, middle management, or not a manager? About 80% are either senior managers or middle management. The vast majority of the people in the course are actually senior leadership. And the next question is, what's your current level in AI? Clueless, beginner, medium, kind of like mid-level or advanced. 80 to 85% of people are in one of the 2 levels, like completely clueless or total beginners. Now, yes, there's some kind of a shift in data here because these are people signing up for an AI course, right? So like if you're an advanced user, you're probably not taking the course. But the reality is when I speak on stages, which happens pretty frequently, and sometimes in front of hundreds and sometimes thousands of people, I ask the same question at the beginning of each lecture, which level you are, and still 80 to 85% of people in the room raise their hand, either I'm a total beginner or I know a little bit, I played with ChatGPT, but that's kind of like where my knowledge ends. And that is today. That is not the middle of 2023 when I started doing this. And so there's a huge gap in knowledge, and that huge gap translates to confusion, fear, making wrong decisions, and so on and so forth. Not to mention losing huge amount of business opportunities and business efficiencies that come if you do implement this.
That's incredibly surprising and at the same time not surprising because AI grows at the speed of light. It's so fast, like every week there's something new. And then at the same time, if you are a decision maker, you are making decisions, you cannot keep up. So there's definitely a disconnect there. How do you personally get up to speed with AI? And what's perhaps the most common misconception business leaders have about AI transformation?
Uh, the first one I can answer relatively quickly. The second one, if we have 3 hours, we. I'm kidding. So the first question was me. It's an interesting question because I was struggling with this myself. Because I have a company to run. I actually have two. I have a software company that I'm running as well. So I'm running two businesses, and I found it hard to stay on top of what's happening with AI. And my solution was, so I have a podcast. The podcast is called Leveraging AI. And Leveraging AI started as a very tactical podcast where I invite people who are amazing AI practitioners who solve specific business use cases, and they share exactly how to solve it. Here are the tools, here's the process, here are the prompts, this is the business outcome you're going to get. And so the goal was to show the how and not just the what of AI, because there's hundreds of AI podcasts. Most of them tell you what you can do with AI. There's like three of them that actually show you how to do stuff with AI. I think I was the first one that actually had a podcast like that. And so that was the initial goal of the Leveraging AI podcast, is to show people hi. And it still is. Every Tuesday there's an episode that does that. But about a year ago, I was struggling with how do I stay on top of AI. And what I did is I decided to do another episode every week that comes out every weekend that talks about what happened in AI this past week and just sharing AI news as they happen. And because now I don't have a choice, because I have to record the episode and send it to the world every Saturday morning, I have to follow the news. So I have now this whole system that has a lot of AI built into it. So I get a feed from different sources. I go through the feed. I pick the articles that I like. I send them into a Stack. It's technically a Slack channel where I send everything to. And at the end of the week, it goes to, with an automation, into AI that sorts them and groups them into logical groups. So you don't have one news article about OpenAI and then one about Anthropic and then one about the Chinese government and then back to OpenAI. It kind of makes logic in grouping them together. And then I give it some comments on what I want to group and how I want to move it. And then it goes and summarizes all of these news into a table. And then I go and record. But because I now have a commitment to my audience, I force myself, and I had to develop the system that I just mentioned. But I think even if I had the system, I didn't have the commitment, because I have so many other things, I will eventually stop doing it because I have other things. And so giving ourselves a deadline or a commitment to a client, an audience, whatever the case may be, is a great way to force ourselves to do that. When I talk to companies and they ask me the same question, they ask me, how do we stay? Like, we don't have you, and we're not going to start an AI podcast. What I tell them is divide and conquer. Start an AI committee and have different people in the committee be in charge of different aspects of AI, and have each and every one of them pick the people that they follow. So follow people like me who share news and practical news. Follow people like Sam Altman and Dario Amodei and whatever, who run the AI bullet train forward. Follow people in government that are in charge of regulation and governance of how AI is going to go. And you don't have to, each person in the company, do all of that. You need 4 or 5 people, each and every one of them following specific topics, and they jointly can curate updates for the rest of the company that will be relevant and digestible for the people in the company. So that's my 2 cents on that. I'll let you ask questions about this before I jump into the other topic.
No, I think I, I, I really appreciate how much work it goes into even keeping up with AI. And you mentioned your Slack, then it goes into an AI model that then takes that information and synthesizes in groups, and then you add comments, and then this is what it takes to be at the forefront. And this is what a lot of high high performers need to do is leverage other people's expertise. So I think that that is a up, great for you to keep up, but also for people like me or others who are doing their own work. Watch a podcast, and then you'll keep up to date. But then it's the next one, which is the misconception that business leaders have about AI transformation. I think that it's a great segue because you said, okay, we don't have a podcast, but then how do we keep up and how do we start implementing these things?
Big misconceptions. I think big misconception number one is that this strange phenomena that we don't know if it will go away, if it will stay, if it will impact us, it will not impact us. Do we need to do something? We don't need to do something. So I think that's the biggest misconception. AI is here to stay. It's going to transform most industries in very dramatic ways, and you need to act. Misconception number two is getting the technology is going to solve the problem. I can't even tell you how many companies come to me and say, well, about a year ago, we got everybody Copilot licenses, but we don't see a big ROI, so we thought of not investing in it anymore. We kind of want to bring you in to tell us, what do you think? And the reality is, the real gap is not the technology, it's training and education, right? It's showing people specific use cases, specific processes, specific ways to actually implement AI that would be relevant to the stuff that they're doing on the day-to-day, or more importantly, the stuff that they need to be doing in the day-to-day, and not necessarily the stuff that they're doing right now, in order to help a company go in the direction that it needs to go when AI takes over. And it's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's happening every single day a little bit. And within 3 to 5 years, almost no industry will be similar to what it is right now. And that's a very short timeline in the lifetime of a company, right? So being able to turn your business around completely to something else in 3 years is really fast. And it means you need to start thinking about it and planning and evaluating. And so that's kind of misconception number two. It's not about the tech. It's about the things that you need to know in order to make the right decisions. I would say something that is on the individual level that translates to the company level is people think it's a magic wand. Give up too fast. So people see people like me doing something in 25 minutes and like, holy crap, I can do this thing in 25 minutes. And then they go and try for 4 hours and they fail. And they're like, okay, this is bullshit. This was like the Isar has like a magic trick that he's doing, and it's not real, and it's just he planned in that specific demo, and it's not scalable, and so on and so forth. And the reality is, in some cases it's true. Many demos that you see are nothing short of demos, and they're not scalable to an actual solution in a company. But the other part of it is that it's a lot of trial and error. The stuff that I know how to do right now in 25 minutes is because I spent the 4 hours, 8 hours, 16 hours, 3 weeks in the last 2 years learning how to do what I do effectively, right? And the companies that hire me or the people that take my course do this because it's a shortcut. They get to learn what it took me 2 years to learn. They get to learn that in an hour, which is awesome, right? It's a huge time saver. But I think companies and individuals give up too quickly because they try something. Let's take a very simple example. I want to write better proposals. So I'm going to try to have AI write the proposal for me. And it's crap, time and time again. And I spent 6 hours trying to write the proposal with AI, and it would have taken me an hour and 20 minutes to write the proposal. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. That was the worst investment of my time ever. The reality is, if you invest enough time and you figure it out, the next time you need to write a proposal, it will take you 15 minutes instead of an hour and 20, and it's going to be a better proposal than you ever written before. And if you have to write a proposal once a week, then over the course of the next month, you're going to save more time than you spent. Over the course of the year, obviously. And so I think, going back to what I said before, as far as education and learning how to find the right use cases where AI is actually applicable, because it's not applicable everywhere yet, and learn which tools, which processes, which prompts, which steps, which automations, which data you need in order to make it work consistently and effectively for that particular use case. Teach the relevant people in the company how to do that, and you gain amazing benefits. That's on the tactical level. If you want, we can also talk about the strategic level, which in my perspective is more important, just less sexy.
No, I really appreciate that because I feel that I do think there's a little bit too much, especially on the third one, the magic wand. AI will be able to do it, and then you can tell a trained AI versus an untrained AI. It's very easy to tell because I think people don't realize that the name AI is wrong. It's not really intelligent. It's been shown everything in the world, and then it regurgitates information back as the speed of light. So it's something that you think, oh yeah, it knows everything. But if you want the output, like you said, you really need to work on the prompt, on the data, on how you want to deliver it. There's a whole science to that. And then let's go to the strategic part because you left me with the breadcrumb there. Let's go to the strategic misconception because if you're saying that every business is going to change in the next few years because of AI, what are the misconceptions that we're doing strategically?
So instead of misconceptions, let's talk about what's the right steps to take. I think that's going to be very
Okay, let's do that.
so what I said is right. It's going to impact every industry. So as a business leader, as somebody who sits on the board or somebody who is in some kind of a C-suite position, you got to put a team together and you got to start looking at your industry and the future of your business. And you got to ask yourself three questions. Question number one is, what of the products and services that I'm delivering right now is going to be diminished, eroded, or eliminated completely by the fact that my clients will have access to AI, right? So let's take a simple example. There, until 2 years ago, were hundreds or thousands of companies who provided content writing solutions to companies. There are graphic design companies, there are marketing companies, there are accounting companies, there are customer service call centers that hire millions of people in, you know, low labor cost markets like India and Vietnam and Philippines and El Salvador and stuff like that. All of that is going to go away. They will disappear. There is not going to be such a thing as a call center 5 years from now. They just won't exist. That's a huge industry that is going to literally disappear. Now, there's a lot of other industries that are not going to disappear, but they're going to get eroded. The value that they can provide will be significantly less than right now because some of it companies will be able to do in-house with no problem. That means, as somebody who has a business that needs to be profitable 2, 3, 5 years from now, you need to start thinking, what I said, what of the services and products that we're delivering right now are going to get eroded by the fact that our clients will have access to AI. So that's question number one. That's the scary question. There's two good questions. The first good question is, what new services or products can we provide our existing clients that we couldn't do profitably before because we have access to AI? Stuff that before, like, okay, I need 50 more people and I need all these resources in order to start to try to sell this to my clients. I can't convince my board, or I don't have enough money, or it's just the ROI just doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to do it. And now you might be able to do it with 3 people and $100,000 instead of 15 million. So now you have an opportunity to offer new products, new services that you just couldn't do before profitably. And then the third question is, what new clients, what new opportunities, what new niches, what new markets that you couldn't address before profitably, you can address right now because you have access to AI. And so if you ask yourself all these questions, and it's a brainstorming process that you can use AI in order to help you brainstorm. You have to give it a lot of data about yourself, about your company, about your industry, about where you are, but it comes with a lot of data and it's very good at brainstorming. I brainstorm with AI literally every single day across multiple things that I do. But once you do that, you can start thinking about a plan and saying, okay, here's what we need to start divesting from. Here's what we need to add in order to complement that. Here is what it means from an HR perspective, a financial perspective, projections perspective, stock market perspective if you're a publicly traded company. Like there's a lot of implications to that that you can start applying today in order to navigate in the right direction versus when a tsunami hits, just drown because you weren't ready. These are basically the two options.
Absolutely. I love the framework because it really sets the stage of what you need to cut, what you can add, or and then who can you serve. Because it really is expanding our perspective on what is valuable and what won't be valuable
Yeah.
and what other people can value. Talking on, you've talked to people like billion-dollar companies, but also very active in the startup space. What's the difference in how they approach AI?
So I must admit, I was completely wrong when I made my projections a year and a half ago. I assumed that's what's going to happen is that smaller companies will run circles around enterprise with AI adoption and hence are going to leave enterprises behind because enterprises usually react really slow and startups and smaller companies can act fast and can use AI faster than enterprises. And then the enterprises that already have more overhead will be even in a bigger disadvantage. And the reality is that's what's happening right now. The bigger companies are actually moving faster. And that's obviously on average. It's not every company is like that. But what I see is that enterprise level companies have the vision, the resources to actually act on that. And you see a lot of big companies saying, okay, we're all in, we're going to invest whatever it takes. And whatever it takes for some companies might be $2 million, for some companies might be 20 billion, right? Depending on how big the company is, to figure this AI thing out. And we will hire a whole new department, 200, 300, 3,000 people that will be in charge of our AI transformation, where smaller businesses are struggling. And when I say smaller, it could be a $100 million company, right? It doesn't have to be a small company, but it's not a huge enterprise. Most companies at that level are not going to hire X number of people, start a new department, and have it deal with AI transformation. And so what's actually happening is exactly the opposite of what I thought that is going to happen, where the bigger established enterprises are moving actually faster than the smaller businesses, which is really surprising. So
I would have had the same hypothesis as you, and thank you for sharing this completely different approach. But when you think about digital transformation, bigger companies also transform digitally faster than smaller businesses in the 100 million because of that lack of resources. Or perhaps they couldn't afford a trial and error phase, whereas a bigger company could say, let's, this is the goal, like you said at the beginning, this is the goal. How we get there might shift a little, but we're still going to get there. Whereas a smaller company might say, let's see how they do it, and then kind of miss every mistake that they did or apply it to our use case.
yeah, yeah. So this is currently the current status, right? Is that bigger companies are actually moving faster. Smaller companies, it depends, and to be fair, it depends on all companies. The two most important factors for success with AI business transformation is not the technology, is not the data, is not data security, is not. There's two factors that I see time and time again. One, leadership buy-in. If you have the people at the top, CEO, C-suite members that are, yes, we're all in, we're going to do this. Things are moving, they're moving fast, people are listening, and the company, yes, it sometimes takes longer to shift, but it's shifting. So that's number one. Number two, training and education. The companies who invest in educating the employees from the top down, from the bottom up, from the board, educating the people who are in the ecosystem. One of my clients are also educating the distributors. They're doing AI training sessions for their people around them, not in the company. Because if they're going to learn faster and they can sell my stuff faster because they become better companies, I win. It's a very smart way to approach this. So if you invest in training and education and you have a leadership that is bought in, the chances that you're going to go through this process faster and more successful are significantly higher than if you're lacking any of these, and definitely if you're lacking both.
I see that. We had a use case of we built an AI powered, we call it the Infinity Engine, so that we can see deals, and our AI looks at the deal at let's say a deck, and then comes out if it's worth our time. So a very simple, simplified format, and it doesn't tell you if the deal is good or bad. If it just tells you it is worth our time or it isn't, based on very similar parameters.
Yeah.
Our investment committee immediately said this is not going to work. So obviously it didn't,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
because the investment committee gets, well, the committee kind of has is very involved in the whole process, so it sees origination to then analysis and then to the committee. So if at the origination the AI was saying yes or no and it's not going to work, then they're still going through everything. So I agree with you. When you don't have 100% commitment at the top, it's never going to work, because then the organization is also going to say, why are we even using this?
Yeah.
If every time that it says no, we still look at the deal. So
Yeah,
it was an
it's
interesting.
also on a very personal perspective, right? If you see your CEO is all in on AI and he talks about it at lunch and he talks about it on all hands and he's using the tools and he's sharing it in videos on Slack on what he's, then you're gonna pay attention and you're gonna want to learn and you want to try it yourself because it's obvious that it's important to the organization. If the organization sent you a link to read some articles and maybe an option to take an online course, but that's all they're doing, they're like, okay, I have better stuff to do. I'm not measured on this. I'm measured on these four KPIs. I'm not going to spend my X number of hours a week to learn AI because it's obviously less important than other things that the company does value. And so if you don't change the culture in the organization and it has to come from the top, then it's just not going to happen.
For sure. And I've also seen the opposite, is too many companies chasing AI like well, it is a buzzword, but they're chasing it that way too. But you're pushing it in a different angle, structured implementation. So let's unpack that a little.
Yeah, as I said before, I think there are two parallel things that have to happen in each company right now. The top down, which we talked about, kind of like the strategic approach of where's the company going, what do we need to put in place in the long run in order to make this work, in order to make our company be successful. But then there is the grassroots aspect of it. And the grassroots have to start with research. By the way, like almost any other successful project. But the research has to start with let's map our existing business processes. Let's map the existing tasks that people are doing. Let's map what's tedious and can be replaced by AI. Let's figure out what are the biggest bottlenecks we have in the company right now. And then go and say, okay, out of all of those, which one is AI actually good at augmenting, replacing, improving? And then prioritize them based on value to the company. I measure value to the company by one of three things. It supports the top line, it reduces costs, so it supports the bottom line, or it makes my employees happier. If I can make my employees happier, they'll be happier, I'll have a more successful company. So sometimes just eliminating a few of these tasks might not be a great contribution to whatever, but that person is going to be a better and happier employee and he's going to do more and the company will benefit some other way. And so you do that, right? Once you map all the processes and then you map the ones that AI can actually solve, and then out of that you prioritize them, and then you obviously assign a cost to it because there is a cost associated. Sometimes it's training is a cost, right? You need an instructor, you need to sign up for courses, you need to bring content, you need people to take time off of their day jobs like there's cost to training as well. Sometimes it's hard cost of licenses and servers and infrastructure and things like that, but you then assign that and you prioritize like everything else in the company. I think the combination of that, so more of like the day-to-day stuff that can provide value to the company, combined with a strategic vision of what do we need to change on the bigger picture of the company in order to even stay profitable, is the right way to move forward.
Do you think you just painted a picture in my head. You have all your business processes, and then you pinpoint which ones have more pain, more cost, or make your employees happier. Uh, would you say that that is a more effective approach, or should you say this is an easy implementation or a low hanging fruit? Go for that first.
Great question. So I approach this in two different ways. I think the low-hanging fruit comes through education of people and empowering them to actually do the thing. So everything that is a custom GPT, Claude, Gemini, automation with Make, all of these things, I want each and every one of my employees to know how to do. And they don't need approval, they don't need a process, they just go do it. So if I teach you, going back to I want to teach you how to fish instead of giving you fish.
Hmm.
If I can teach all my employees to fish with AI, and I push them to do it, the way to push them to do it, again, it's one of the things I talk about in my courses. You got to drive AI usage in your business, and there's multiple ways to do it. One of them we talked about, leading by example. Hey, I want to show you what I'm doing as the CEO, or as the head of the department, or as the head of the team. Doesn't matter, depending which level of leadership you're in. But then the other parts are talking about this in all hands, in every team meeting. It's about celebrating wins. Look at Jill from the development team. Look what she was able to develop. Now everybody's doing this. We're making this much more better. Look at John from HR, and we're now improve our hiring process, and it saves us 20% to bring new people in just because. Celebrate that. Gamify it. Give people rewards. This could be anything. It doesn't, people are like, oh, what kind of reward? People don't care. Give people guts. The fact that they won is the thing, right? But you can give bigger things. Like if the reward that the company's getting is now it's going to save 2 hours a week across the company every week, give people a cruise. Like it doesn't matter. It's going to be still profitable. Like make it interesting for people, make it fun for people. Compete the different teams. Marketing versus sales versus HR versus accounting. Who applied a better, useful AI solution that supports the bottom line better? So you do these things, drive people for usage, combine with education on how to actually do the things, combining with the right guardrails. Don't use this data with this tool. Don't post this thing before reviewing it if AI wrote it. You gotta, that's part of the education and the guardrails. But with that in place, the grassroots stuff that you're talking about, the daily things just happen across the company. That's why one of the things I enjoy doing the most, and I found the most effective when I do my training, is doing 2 days of training, and the second day we do a hackathon. Because then people get to actually develop stuff that they're going to actually use in the business. It's not me talking about random conceptual use cases. And that gives people that first of all, the knowledge and the experience, but most importantly, the confidence that they can actually do this. Like, oh my God, we spend 2 hours and now we have this tool that saves us an hour every single day. And once you do that, you're like, you want to do more because you now understand that you have a superpower that you didn't have before.
I really like this idea of a hackathon and even bringing more grassroots and crystal clear. The leader has to talk about AI, incentivize it, gamify it, because the solutions will come from the use cases.
Yep.
If the guy at shipping says, I created this AI that now I can invoice like that, I can check if everything is great and I can do it faster or better, that use case might not come from the CEO because the
Yeah.
CEO is
It
not
probably
facing
won't.
that problem. Exactly.
Yeah.
In your AI transformation course, what surprises students the most?
Wow. A lot. And it's different for each person. I think people come in, A, with different misconceptions, B, with different levels of knowledge, and C, from different industries or different aspects of the business. So I have people who are CEOs. I told you a lot of them are like C-suite people, but there's people who just solopreneurs or people who run marketing or people who are in charge of logistics. And so every one of them have their own aha moments. I actually asked them, like there's a survey at the end, and everyone answers different things. I think the biggest thing for each person is seeing how the stuff that they're doing can be done dramatically better, faster, cheaper. And then depends on what your viewpoint, you will value different things. Like if you show a design team of a product that they can design the product in half the time they did so far, they're like, oh my God, design is amazing. If you take a logistics team and you show them that the 5 reports that they have to merge manually together every week to a single report, and they literally spend hours every single week because they get data from 17 different sources, and each and every one of them sends it on a different day in a different format, in a different file type, and yet they have to somehow feed it into their ERP, CRM, whatever the company does, then that's what they have. They have 5 or 6 people, and that's what they do. They manually copy and paste and do VLOOKUPs and pivot tables and formulas and stuff like that to figure it out. Well, you show them how AI can do all of that. And you have to develop the AI process once, and then all you have to do is drop these 17 files in, and you get the one file out. And it happens in about 3 minutes. People go nuts. And so I think it just depends on what is your personal pain point, will make you value a different thing more than others. A lot of people, now I'll say something to the other extreme. Some people, small minority, but some people come to the course when they are experts. They're like, they feel up like in the level, they say, I'm an AI expert, which always surprises me. Like, if you're an AI expert, why do you sign up for courses? But most of these people have been listening to my podcast for 2 years, and they appreciate what I do and say, okay, it's time for me to take the course. So they come and take the course. And what surprises them is all the small little tricks they didn't know. Right? So they've been using ChatGPT every day. They help companies. They do this, they do that. And then you come and learn, the little 5 cents here, 20 cents there that help you do the stuff that you know how to do even better, even more effective, even because my biggest benefit is that I've been doing, 3 benefits. One, I'm a geek. I really enjoy doing this. I will spend 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. just playing with a new AI tool because I find it exciting. Most people don't. 2 is I've been doing this for 2.5 years, every single day. Most people don't. 3 is because I teach these courses and I speak on paid stages and I work with multiple businesses as a consultant, I get exposed to a lot of stuff. And the 4th thing is a podcast. As you know, you get to invite whoever you want to talk about whatever you want, and you can learn new things that otherwise are not easy to learn. And so it's a great mix that allows me to just learn faster than other people because of A, who I am, and B, the resources that I have because of the universe I built around me.
And do you feel that there's a little stigma with AI? And I feel, and let me explain what I feel or what I've noticed, is when you get a message on LinkedIn or you get an email that's written with AI, and as someone that uses AI every day, it's all the time, when I pick up that it's AI written or sent, I immediately kind of like, uh, it can be written perfectly. It can have everything like specific to me, but there's a little trigger in my brain that says, "Oh, it's AI," so I don't pay attention to it as much as if it was a human with their imperfections writing it. Do you feel the same? And when is too much AI too much?
First of all, 100%. Yeah, I agree with you. I do the same thing, despite the fact that I create a lot of stuff with AI. My most obvious one is like LinkedIn comments. Today, I don't know what percentage, 30, 40% of the comments on LinkedIn are AI generated. And you see they're AI generated. They're kind of like regurgitating what was said in the actual post, and it's very, very easy to pick up on it. And I'm like, okay, this is BS. Like, why are you even doing this? Like, if your goal is not really to engage with people, like, why? So what's the point? Like, you're trying to trick the algorithm. Like, what? Like, what's the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is for you to have a business conversation with someone. If you
Right.
haven't created a relationship, I don't know how much you actually help yourself. But I'm putting that aside for a second. Yes, there is a stigma. I think 2 things are happening. One, today, the people who know how to do it properly can generate AI generated content that is very hard to tell that AI generated. If you start giving it information about yourself, about your business, about how you write, about how you communicate, about the client, it becomes a lot less AI, and it's a lot harder to point it out as AI, which reduces the stigma. I think AI itself will learn how to be less AI over time. So that's another. Even today, there was uh, not 3 weeks ago, I think, somebody published a research about chat with AI versus humans. And it was basically a large scale Turing test, right? They gave people the opportunity to chat with several different chats, and the people had to say which person on the other side was a person versus what was AI. And GPT 4.5 got a higher selection of people saying it's humans than the humans. So they had multiple models, and it wasn't just GPT 4.5, it was GPT 4.5 with a proper system prompt that explained to it the role that it has and what it's doing, what's happening in the test. But it got like 70% people said it's humans, and the humans got like 63%.
Wow.
And so we're already there. Like AI done properly can fool a large group of people not to know it's actually AI. That being said, I think in the next 2 to 3 years, the stigma will go away because that's going to be the norm, right? It's as if it was very rude to send somebody a happy birthday message over WhatsApp 10 years ago. Like, you didn't give me a card?
You didn't call me? Yeah.
Oh, what the hell's wrong with you, man?
Hmm.
Like, we've been friends for 10 years. What are you doing? And today it's like, yeah, that's awesome. I love it because so it's yes, there's still something more when somebody actually gives you a physical card. But you don't hold it against people if they just send you a digital message or if people show messages. And I think AI is going to be the same. Not to mention the fact that sometimes, not too far in the future, you're not going to read the email. Your AI is going to read the email. So it's not going to get offended by the fact that a different AI wrote the email, because they're going to communicate back and forth, and they will let you know when something important happens that needs your attention.
Let's go to something practical, which I know some people are fighting with, and I'm very curious to your opinion or your expertise on this actually, is when you create a custom GPT, or you will add all the prompt instructions, the resources, you create all this back end, let's call it, and then there's a new LLM that's better. You just mentioned 4.5 is better because it's more human-like. But
Yeah.
when you created the GPT, I don't know what GPT it uses. Is it better to become a better prompter and have prompt templates and use the latest GPT, or create custom GPTs that then just use whatever LLM they're using on the back end?
Awesome question. My answer is good is better than perfect, and good is good enough. Meaning you can chase the best AI all day long. And there's going to be a new one in the current few months, once a week. There's going to be a better model by somebody. Open source, closed source, large model, small model, dedicated model, better coder, better this, better that. And you can chase it, that's fine. And for some use cases, it's actually important. For many use cases, if you can build a custom GPT that does it well, why do you care? So what I do is, for most of my use cases, we would run a test comparing it across 3, 4 different models, pick the one that in 3, 4 attempts did better consistently, and I'll run with it for a quarter. And then a quarter later, we'll go back and say, okay, let's try this again. Or when there's a major release, GPT-5 will come out. Okay, let's see what it does and see if it's better. And there's a few use cases that I test more frequently because they're critical to my business. And there's a few use cases that I don't test that frequently. I'll plug in a tool that I absolutely love, even though I'm not affiliated with them in any way. It's a free tool for now. I'm sure they're going to start charging money at a certain point. So even if I was affiliate, there's no money to be made because they're not making money. It's called Hunch. And I think it's hunch.ai. I can check it. Give me 2 seconds. Hunch.tools. So Hunch.tools is like a big canvas kind of thing where you can connect any kind of LLM to any other kind of LLM in whatever logic and do really cool things with it. But the very, very, very basic use case that is absolutely magical is I have, and one of the components that you can drop in is just a text box. You drop in a text box and it's a text. But what you can do is you can use the text box as a prompt. So what I have is I have 6 or 7 different large language models, and I have this box. And every time I want to test a prompt, I just drop it in there, and it runs it on all the different models, and it shows me the output. And then I have one or two things. I have the old way, which I would go and read all of them, and I decide which one I like better. And then I have another version of the same thing where I have O3, so one of the better thinking models that actually evaluates all the different inputs and tells me which model did better and why. And then you write it 5 or 6 times, and then it's the same one wins every time. You're like, okay, this is the better model for this particular tool, for this particular.
Amazing.
And so there are many ways how to learn which models to use. And when it is very dynamic, I do have a very large prompt library that I use regularly across all the different tools. So I don't necessarily use them in one tool or the other. I will try different tools, or I mix and match in different tools. But when I want to have a stable solution that will run for X number of months, and it's good enough, then I don't care. It's good enough. It does the thing.
So it's a wonderful answer. I think it's getting to the point where you're comfortable and then sticking to it. And then when there's something bigger, do it again. But I think the choosing part and having this, using AI to even choose it is wonderful. And it's a way to like test 10 things at once and then running with it. Let's zoom out for a little bit. Now that you understand what you do and where you come from, and you've helped hundreds of companies, and now you have a new viewer of your podcast, because this is all very exciting to me. Even though I don't consider myself extremely geeky, but I get excited when I hear that I can do all this stuff. What's next for you in tech and you personally?
It's an awesome question. So I very early on in my career, when I was an instructor at the Air Force Academy, so we're talking about 1,000 years ago. It was me and the Wright brothers back then teaching. No, but it was a while back. It was a while back. I learned that I'm very passionate about teaching and educating people and helping people be more successful in what they're trying to do. And I always said that if I find a way to actually make significant money being a teacher, that's what I want to do. And so now I finally found my calling, right? I really enjoy what I'm doing. And so what I'm trying to do right now is scale the courses and be able to reach a broader audience and deliver value to more people and be able to train more and more people, because I think it's critical to the future of our planet. Like, I think it's that extreme right now. So in addition to me enjoying being an educator, I think it's actually important as a society for people to learn how to use this, because it's going to have profound impacts on the way we live. The other side is I have a software company that I've been investing in the past X number of months, and we finally went live with our first beta site a couple of weeks ago, and that's also very exciting to me. And what that software company does is it knows how to take unstructured data, and I'll give you a few examples in a minute, structure it, put it in a database, and then communicate it through APIs to existing company systems, such as your accounting system, your ERP, your CRM, etc., etc. There's a huge variety of use cases to this thing. Let's take something very simple that every company knows: invoice reconciliation. You get invoices. If you're a big company, some of my first client gets about 40 to 50 a day. So 40 to 50 invoices per day. There's companies who get thousands of invoices per day. About 80% of them are not fully aligned with what's in the purchase order. Something is different. Quantity is a little different, the pricing is a little different, the deliverable time is a little different, there's shipping costs that didn't appear before because nobody, like all these kind of things that happen in every single company. And they have a team that's what they do. They open PO by PO, they log into the accounting system, they pull up the purchase order, they compare them one to one, and they make their, and now our tool does it on its own. You teach it the business rules, and it learns from your feedback, and then it knows how to do reconciliation of invoices. But that's just one use case. Think about literally every data entry job on the planet. You take unstructured data that comes in an email, in a PDF, in a flow chart, in whatever it comes in, and humans need to look at it, understand what it is, and based on specific business rules, log it into some kind of a company system. And AI is now actually really good at several different steps in that chain, which maybe doesn't eliminate, but reduces dramatically the need to do this manually. So both of these things are things I'm very excited for.
I definitely feel very excited for both of them. First one, because I can tell that you're a very good teacher. And like I said before, I will follow your channel. I think that this is very important to keep learning, and to keep at the forefront, because it is that important. It is gonna impact us whether we are at the forefront or at the back end. It's going to come back to us, and we need to be, I feel, involved. And the second one is very interesting because the unstructured data world is where all analytics lie. And that's where, like, every analytics doesn't do a good job when the data is unstructured. So I think it's incredibly valuable. When everybody was talking about big data maybe 10 years ago, now data quality is going to be the next frontier. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see in the future. Izar, it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast, and thank you for sharing all your insights and what you're working on. It was really insightful.
Thank you so much. You asked amazing questions. So this was a great conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.